you talk about the Pocono Raceway, you have to use words like picturesque. You might say remote, you might say it's a little bit challenging, and you also might say that it's unique.
This racetrack is probably one of the trickiest tracks on the circuit here, with three completely different corners.
Into the wall hard, sideways, and around he goes. He's going to take the checkered flag at Pocono.
A 2.5-mile tricky triangle to challenge the stars of ARCA. Time for a little late afternoon racing in the Pocono Mountains. ARCA is in town for the General Tire Anywhere is Possible 200. The ARCA Series is in town for round 7 of the 2017 championship, and it's a gorgeous afternoon here. Temperatures in the mid-70s and a light breeze blowing, as you can see. The flags whipping around a little bit. And we've got a special guest to help call all the racing action here for you today on FS1, and he knows a thing or two about not just racing here at Pocono, but winning, and winning in a big way. Winning in NASCAR's Premier Series here in 2016 and taking advantage of a little Mother Nature to get himself a big victory. Chris Buescher joins us, the 2016 winner here with NASCAR in August. Hi, everybody. Ralph Sheen alongside Chris Buescher, my buddy Jim Trado, as we get set to go racing here this afternoon. You just got done qualifying, so you know this racetrack probably better than anybody right now. How's it shaping up for this afternoon?
I don't know about better than anybody, but I'm your meteorologist if you need somebody to call when the fog's rolling in. I got that covered. But, you know, the track, with the cloud cover that we've had here lately, the track got really fast with that little bit of shade out there. So, you know, it's going to be a little spotty in and out of the race. And, you know, obviously qualifying, you're trying to time it into those cloudy sessions, but this whole race is going to have some shade, and it's going to be fast.
Well, I know you're locked in for Sunday. We got you up here. I got a tie on you. You're locked in for now. Jim, how about this race? I mean, they talk about this place as a tricky triangle, and it's not just because it's 3 corners. It's 3 really tough corners.
The majority of the drivers in our race today have less than a handful of starts here, and a couple of drivers, including the driver second in points, has to go to a backup car. A couple of cars got gobbled up here yesterday and, Wednesday and today in practice.
It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes down. We're getting closer to the start of today's race, but you know, all these drivers who are making a living racing cars today, they all had a first job somewhere down the line. And as we go to break, that's part of our General Tire driver profile.
My first job was power washing big 18-wheeler trucks that my dad owned. During the summer, they were full of mud, and during the winter, they were full of ice and snow. So it wasn't a very clean job. We always dressed up in full-body plastic because we would just get drenched.
Get back to New Jersey, my family is in the car business, so I worked there washing cars, moving cars, selling cars, pretty much whatever I could do when I was younger.
First job, I worked as a manual laborer for my dad's construction company. Dug ditches, laid silt fence, spread hay. Not very fun at all. That kind of makes you want to drive harder when you realize you don't want to do something like that.
My first job was actually sweeping the floors at my dad's shop. My dad owns a company in Winslow, Missouri, and whether it's working in the shop or working in the race car shop, I love helping out and learning about what I'm going to be doing for hopefully my career and my life. To be involved in any way I can and help out is very cool.
Back here at Pocono, getting ready for the race, but qualifying was pretty wild earlier today, Chris. Dalton Sargent
went for a wild ride there, so, you know, that's makes it a little bit harder, but starting at the back here is definitely not the end of the world. You have a lot of strategies going to come into play.
Yeah, going to have to go to the backup car after that one. That was a big hit. But you know what? Last week, pretty wild too, Jim, at Elko Speedway up in Minnesota.
3A Smile. This is the final restart, the final few laps. In the 15 is Christian Eckes. The 52 is our point leader, Austin Terrio. Zane Smith in that black 55. These 4 cars literally were that close, those final circuits, until the very end.
And look at this as they come sliding through the smoke at the checkers. It was Austin Terrio by that much. And earlier, Heather DeBow caught up with him.
It was definitely a crazy finish at Elko, but this guy came out on top. 2 wins this season, and coming off of a win, that's got to give you momentum. But what are your expectations coming into this tricky triangle today?
Elko was awesome. This week it's been a little bit of an up-and-down experience for us. Practice on Wednesday went okay, but practice this morning we really struggled to find the balance and actually qualified better than I thought. it didn't work out. We got to start in the back because they're referring back to practice speed. So, I mean, that's going to allow us just to slowly work our way through the field. We got to be smart. Some of these people haven't been to these types of racetracks before, so it's going to be interesting to get through turn 2 the first lap. Everybody gets single file. But I expect to see us in the front before the day's over.
That's Austin Terrio, your points leader, and he will roll off 12th today.
And he's going to have 80 laps to get to the front before the checkers wave here at the Tricky Triangle Pocono Raceway. Drivers are in their cars. We're close to the green flag on FS1.
Race fans, time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome our Grand Marshal.
Well, there we go. The engines have come to life, and we are ready to get those cars off the pit lane and out onto the Tricky Triangle. So let's take a look at our ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards Starting Grid. Our General Tire starting grid looks like this. Brandon Jones and Kyle Weatherman are going to be up on the front row. Right behind him, of course, we talked about the problems Dalton Sargent had, and there you see Cody Rohrbaugh right there alongside of him. So, Jim, as we take a look deeper through this field, Riley Herbst up in the front row. A lot of younger guys that don't have a ton of experience here.
Yeah, and even Ty Majeski is making his ARCA season debut in the 99. That kid has never been on a track like this. He's raced some super speedways, mile and a half, but not the Tricky Triangle before. Same can be said for Shane Lee in the 22. He has a limited amount of experience here. He said he nearly wrecked 4 times in the last couple of days.
So, Chris, if you're talking to one of these younger drivers about racing at this facility, what would be the #1 tip you would give a guy?
For me, I'd say you better be paying attention to the tunnel turn. You can get in trouble very quickly over there. It seems to be a place that catches a lot of people off guard. You know, these first couple of laps when they are jam-packed in the field and they're trying to get through, the air is going to come into play there, and it's going to be hard to keep the race car underneath you, especially if you get pinned down. You know, with them reconfiguring that corner and not having that curb on the inside, at least you have some escape, but that's a very difficult turn to not only get through without damage, but to get through quickly here.
And this is a racetrack, these corners, it's easy to overshoot some of these corners and get yourself into some trouble. Maybe we have a chance to talk to 1 or 2 of the drivers. Let's see, Jim, who you got dialed up there?
Well, the driver, the number 8, Brandon Jones, has the first row starting position because we had to revert to practice speed. Sargent's accident used up the time window for qualifying. So, Brandon Jones, you get the chance to bring the field to the green flag. This Anderson maple syrup car has been fast all week. How are you going to maintain that speed you've shown throughout Wednesday's test and again today?
It has, man. I feel like this ARCA car has been really good. MDM has put together a really nice car for us this weekend. We're just going to be able to back it up here at 80 laps. So we'll see, man. I think we're going to be really solid, like I said. We can't have that hiccup like we did last year, leaving pit road. I think that's what lost us the race here last year. So looking forward to it. I think we've got a hot rod. Thanks for Andersons for coming on this race.
And Brandy, you also had a very dominant race at Michigan last year. You closed the deal and won that. So how much are you focused on being the rabbit, if you will, with the speed you have versus perhaps making sure you're there at lap 80 in the lead?
Yeah, it's a tough balance for sure. You know, you don't want to show too much what you have too early and go bung your stuff up out there. But at the same time, you do have to, you do have to save a little bit right here. Only 80 laps, short race, so maybe we'll get some great fast laps. And our strategy will play out here for this one. So it's a fine balance, but I think we've got a car that's will do it easy.
All right, Brandon, thanks for your time. Good luck today.
Well, while Brandon and the rest of the field heat up their tires and get ready to go racing, we'll take one final break before we throw the green for the General Tire Anywhere is Possible 200 coming up next here on FS1 from Pocono Raceway. Big speeds in 3 very challenging corners. That's what Pocono Raceway is all about here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And what turn 4? Chris, who needs a 4th turn? We got 3 that'll challenge you enough.
Yeah, 3 seems to do the job here. So, you know, this is a very unique racetrack, and that's what everybody hits home, right? It's very different. Turn 1 is so difficult to get down into. You have a ton of speed and very hard brake.
And we've got 80 laps in a pit window of 35 to 40 laps. Boy, if you can stretch that first run just a hair over 40, you might be able to do this in just one stop, huh?
And I think that's something that you'll definitely see come into play. And, you know, I don't know if they're going to be in any two-tire stops, but it might be a way to get some track position as well.
Riley Herbst has our UFC Gym onboard camera. He's going to begin the race from 5th. Zane Smith in the 55 with our General Tire on board, and he's rolling off 8th.
Birthday boy, he's 18 today.
Today. And how about Michael Self, the Sinclair Oil onboard camera? Rolling 11th here, but had some issues with his engine. With more on that story, here's Heather DeBuck.
That's right, Ralph. They actually had to change that engine right after practice and before qualifying, so he only had 3 laps on it. Now, he said the setup is completely different than what they tried in testing on Wednesday, so he really doesn't know what to expect. But Michael Self he's never driven here. This is his debut, but he did spot and driver coach for Justin Haley at this track last year, so he knows a little bit about how to get around the triangle. He's pulling double duty this weekend. He's going to be in the K&N West race in Colorado this week, but he's hoping to get a good finish here in Pocono. He thinks if they have good pit strategy, they'll be able to make up a lot and get towards the front.
Well, that pit strategy, Heather, could be a big part of the outcome of this race, and if he can play it right, who knows? And we do have one more onboard camera for you. Driver out of Bluffton, South Carolina, Gus Dean with the Gree Cooling Products onboard camera. Is going to begin his afternoon in 14th. Took a little weight out of that shift knob, didn't they? Did you see that?
Every little bit counts.
Every little bit counts. Here are the drivers that are going to the rear. Self, Fontaine, and Sargent.
Yeah, Self, because the engine change happened after the cars were presented for practice. Without qualifying, it still meant that he had to go to the back, and Justin Fontaine, lap 1, had a crash in practice today. That backup car was changed over during practice. They had to go to the back as well by rule.
So the Big Time 77 will roll to the tail end of the field.
They just wanted to make it interesting.
Yeah, right. And so, Jim, they're running basically a short track car here now.
Yeah, the car that the 77 had in the trailer raced at Toledo and Nashville.
Yeah.
Short tracks, and there's a lot of rubbing on these race cars. The bodies look the same. The templates are the same no matter the size of the track. But, Chris, you can attest, there's a lot of work that's done on these cars. How shiny is the underside, for example? Where do you put the pans on the nose of the car?
Yes.
Underneath the body is very critical on a track this big versus the hour and a half they had to change over their short track car. Just springs and shocks are probably what they got to throw at it.
Yeah, with these bodies being composite bodies and form fitting and everything's the same, you got to try and find downforce everywhere you can. And a lot of that is found underneath these race cars nowadays. And you don't take the time to put that into a short track car, so he might not have that. And they might have to have them all put together the same way, but it's going to be tough.
Here we go. Coming off the final corner. Waiting on the green flag for the General Tire anywhere it's possible. 200. Set to go green at Pocono, and we're racing. Starting to get up to full velocity now, aren't they?
Getting speed up at this point.
Here comes Riley Herbst to the inside of the 78 of Weatherman.
That's for second spot, and Riley started in the 5th position. He practiced around the top 5. He had a top 5 qualifying run, but again, qualifying negated. So to see him jump this early towards the front, that car's handling well. Shannon Rush, the crew chief, did a lot of work on that race car between Wednesday's half-day test and today.
Talented young driver, had a lot of success in the K&N series. Comes from a well-known racing family off the West Coast out in Las Vegas, but Jim, off-road racing heritage.
Just last weekend, his dad, Troy, and his 2 uncles raced in the Baja 500. Troy finished 10th, his uncle finished 20th, and Grandpa Jerry's even here. 3rd-generation racer, and Riley's just spent 2 years off-road and said, I want to go race on pavement, guys, and his dad was all about it. The family is here in force, as always.
Making the move here, Ty Majeski in the 99.
Looks like the 22 of Lee is off the pace.
It looked like he got up the hill and won it just out of the groove, but they might have something. Well, they definitely have something going on there.
Looks like a left front down.
Looks like it was, didn't it?
His teammate is the one that had the issue in qualifying, Dalton Sargent. The Cunningham Motorsports team, very strong here. Shane actually raced for a different team last year, Wintron Racing, so he's very much looking forward to coming back to a track that he had success on in 2016.
Brandon Jones in the Anderson's Pure Maple Syrup Chevrolet continuing to lead in the early stages here. Car number 8 out front. But Herbst closing in a little bit, isn't he?
He doesn't want to let him get out there too far, and the draft comes into play here. With as long as these straightaways are, if you get a good run off the corner, you'll have some drafting speed.
How about this battle here? 32 car closing in. Dean on the inside. 41 and Miller. It's 10th and 11th.
It's a hard corner to be side by side in right there, going across the tunnel. You know, that's a nice job by both drivers coming out of there cleanly, but you can see Gus Dean just wasn't able to keep the momentum up to try and make sure they got through it.
How much room do you have to play with in that tunnel turn?
Almost zero. About one and a half car width, so too wide through the tunnel is very difficult.
Gus Dean with a brand new race car in that 32 machine, leading Vinnie Miller, who has never been to Pocono Raceway till they came Wednesday and got some laps in and got approved to race here today.
Heather, they finally got the 22 as Shane Lee down pit road. What was the problem?
Well, the problem, they're not quite sure what it was, but they did ask to make sure that the sway bar was attached, because Shane Lee came over the radio when you guys said he was dropping back and said something is broke on the left front. So they came in and changed the left side tires. Things seem to be okay for right now, but we'll keep an eye on the 22 to make sure they got that left front issue fixed.
Crew Chief Paul Andrews on that car was in thrash mode to get his team car, the 77, back up and running. But they, again, after the qualifying session was canceled, due to time constraints, all the focus was on the 77 car. All the cars were impounded, so it's not like they could work on them any further. So this issue may have been something that, is there curbing on the backstretch that he might have got into? Shane talked about how turn 2 has been so difficult for him. He's been through there a few times sideways.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough on the bottom, but they have gotten rid of that massive curb that used to be so hard on tires. But the car did look like it was a little bit off the ground when he was leaving pit road. I don't know if it just hadn't gotten in the corner and loaded up yet, but if it's stuck up in the air like that, they definitely have something going on.
Here's Jones continuing to lead. You caught a glimpse of Dalton Sargent up to 12th. And a lot of laps left, so he's charging.
Dalton raced here last year. He actually won the General Tire Super Speedway Challenge by placing the best amongst the teams that raced on the super speedways, albeit he didn't run a full season. And I'm saying that he had a lot of momentum coming into this weekend. He had a lot of fun carrying himself to 4th and 3rd in the rundown in the finish order of last year's 2 events. So confidence was high until he lost it in qualifying and backed it in turn 2.
Jones is quick, but not quick enough to shake the pack behind him. Herbst just 0.3 of a second off of his tail. We're just getting started here in Pocono. Stay with us for more on FS1. Good time to take a look at our Scott Brand Rookie Challenge with Riley Herbst running up in 2nd place.
Riley's done a great job this year, coming off a 3rd place finish, and this driver really is new to these speedways and this team. Joe Gibbs Racing bought an operation and molded around what Riley wanted to do. He said, I want to run full-time in the ARCA Racing Series. So what he's done, he couldn't race Daytona because he turned 18 within days after, but since then, he's been really, really strong. Climbing in the points, and again, coming off a very impressive 3rd at Elko Speedway, the smallest track we run 1 race ago.
Good view out of our UFC gym onboard camera, and he's made up some time. He's only a 10th or so behind our race leader, Jones.
Jones has been the benchmark, and Chris, you've been in this position, ARCA Racing Series champion in 2012. You know when your car is that good. Jones has had that air about him. His crew chief, Marty Lindley, actually played with some of the balance on the car rather than pure speed in the practice session today. They spent a long time going through the car and said, I just want to get the car better in the corners. We'll give up a little bit on the straightaway. So when that comes to this kind of speed and race pace, I'd say they have a pretty good piece. What do you think?
I would say so. And, you know, the pace is going to fall off a lot. Tires, they lose grip here. And so, you know, if they can get that balance where he feels like he can just stay in the throttle more, at the end of that 10 laps, his straightaway speed will actually be better than where it would have been if they were just focused on that. So that's brilliant on that call there.
Chris, I'm watching this right here, especially as we get out onto the main straightaway here, coming up right off this corner. it looked to me like Riley was moving a little bit to the inside. Maybe he liked cleaner air a little bit more than staying tucked right behind him. Of course, as soon as I say that, this time he seems to hang in there, but he's a little bit further back now, too.
Well, I think he had a good run last time, and it's probably, you know, if he would have stayed in and gotten that draft, he might have had a chance to make a pass, but it looks like he was trying to pull out and try and show his nose and make it look like he was there, but it was just way too soon, and he ends up losing any draft. You get that fresh air on the nose, and actually slows your straightaway speed down. He wasn't even able to make the pass.
Yeah, he lost about 4/10 while all that was going on. Here's a 99 Majeski, and he's running in third, Jim.
And he is a development driver, just like Riley Herbst is a development driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. This is Ty Majeski out of Seymour, Wisconsin. He's going to make his Xfinity debut for Roush Fenway Racing here in end of the month in Iowa. And this young man has been part of this operation, building shocks for the Roush Fenway Racing Xfinity team. And his chance to drive comes here today in a brand new piece that Ken Schrader Racing and the 99 of Cunningham had a chance to put it together, and Matt Weber's done a nice job finalizing this piece that's been pretty fast.
And that's a perfect example of what we saw with our General Tire driver profile at the beginning of the show. Everybody's got to have a first job. Yeah, you want to be the big-time driver, but you know what? Learning how to build the shocks is very important, isn't it, Chris?
That's brilliant, right? I mean, that's you got to be really sharp. And I have talked to Ty Majeski and met him and talked to him at some of our tests that we've been at, and he's very sharp, you know, very in tune with what's going on inside a race car. You know, I pride myself in knowing how to put together a race car, but I can't take a shock apart and put it back together. So that's really impressive in my mind.
Weatherman just getting by him in the 78, and here's Creed in the 12. That's third, fourth, and fifth we're watching battling here.
Sheldon Creed won both rounds of the Robbie Gordon Stadium Super Trucks last weekend on the road course at Detroit on the street race. Then he got in a Trans Am car, and this young man out of California went from 15th to 4th in that race. So talk about versatility. Sheldon Creed can go fast than anything. 30 feet in the air to finite corners at high speeds.
Good battle here between these three, and rolling up in here is Robaugh in the black and green number 7. As the 12 tries to move to the inside, then slides way down.
Trying to break that air away and be able to move by him there. Ty just looks a little bit tight off the corner right now.
Part of this is also who is in his ears. Sheldon Creed has Lauren Ranier as his spotter, and he is very established and experienced at making these young drivers think, learn, listen. Lauren, no doubt, had a input on that. And a matter of fact, Lauren had an input on the paint job.
Jim, you and I both love racing history. And how about this one? Look at Davey Allison at Daytona.
1982. 82. That's the paint job they're using.
And that's what they're running here today. Isn't that great?
That's a Matador. That's awesome. That's a Roger Penske, Bobby Allison Matador.
Look at Davey's racing shoes there. That's what you're running on Sunday, right?
Those are nice tennis shoes there.
You're running those Sunday, aren't you, Chris?
Yeah, they're very similar, except completely different.
Right. Right. Love it. One of the all-time greats, Davey Allison.
And Davey he raced here in ARCA. He had 15 races his first year, and he ran Talladega the next year. And you know, next year he's a Cup Rookie of the Year in '87.
What a great talent he was. Davey Allison, paying tribute to him here today with Creed's number 12 running in fourth, and we're coming back for more from Pocono. Race leader Brandon Jones is making his pit stop here very, very early on lap 16.
1 year ago, the fastest car was Austin Cindric. He made 2 pit stops. One was under green and almost made it back to lead this race and finish second on a car that stretched the fuel mileage by Grant Enfinger.
Pit window was 35 to 40. Would you have gambled like this, Chris?
Well, it puts them in one more stop window right now. And when you are the leader, you see Riley Herbst coming back down to follow suit now. But when you're the leader, you have the advantage of being able to pit without going a lap down. Once you get a certain distance behind that leader, you're not able to pull off the same strategy. So I think they're on the right track here.
They're forcing everybody else's hand now, aren't they?
Exactly. And the problem is, once you get 15 cars back, when the guys start pitting, they're actually going to lose a lap, and it's actually going to hurt them more than it might help them.
So Self moves into the lead.
What? He started last.
I know. He's up there, and Riley Herbst is on pit road, and his crew goes to work. Chassis adjustment going for 4.
This is a full-on Joe Gibbs effort. This team as part of their development program. Todd Barrier was at that pit stall many times over the weekend. Nice job.
Very clean stuff. Looked like a round out of the left rear there. Is that what that was? So maybe trying to free him up a little bit.
And the 78 now makes its way to pit road.
Kyle Weatherman was on the pole here last year and just didn't have it at the very end. Got a top 5 finish out of it, but he is hungry for something, including another victory. He only has one in his ARCA Racing Series career with a ton of top 5s and top 10s.
4 new General tires, chassis adjustment on the right. And there's Self and the Sinclair back 28, the race leader now.
And he has a strategy that's proven because his crew chief is Kevin Reed. Kevin won here as a crew chief with Chad Hockenbraugh. Chad had a really good run, really strong car that day, but Kevin Reed part of that program, and now today on the box with Kyle Weatherman in the 78.
Raced with Chad Hockenbraugh for a long time, but I can still barely say his last name.
Legends cars that up, I'm guessing, right?
Legends cars and he got a problem here.
Yeah,
he got a little smoke out of Sinclair.
Yeah, and he moved up a little bit. Self did. You can see the smoke coming out of the back. He's going to have to go to pit road whether he wanted to or not. At first I thought he was just moving down to pit, but then that puff of smoke, and it looked like the car drifted up a little bit, and it's not sitting right, is it? Looks like something's wrong on that left side. Well, here he is to his pit box.
A lot of smoke coming from underneath that car. They had an electrical issue that turned into a motor issue, causing them to change engines today in a hurried fashion.
Worried.
Does it not sound like it's running full song here, guys?
No, and they got to pick it up like it came off the jack.
Off the jack, too.
Let's go to Heather with more.
Yeah, you guys said that you were seeing smoke coming from that car of Michael Self, the Dino car. He actually had a left front flat. As you can see here, they're struggling to get the tire on the car, came off the jack, so a very slow stop for the 28 here when he came down pit road.
You can see it puffing out the back there, guys, on this replay.
That left front does look low there, doesn't it?
Yeah, you'll see the sparks as it's dragging the body. And he knew right then and went to the pit lane. Now he's exiting pit road. Service finally complete. And Robaugh has taken over the lead in the 7.
Cody Robaugh is a 23-year-old out of Petersburg, West Virginia. This Grant County Mulch team is a family deal. He had a very fast car on Wednesday, but ARCA did not like what they saw with the body mounting on his machine. So the 7 that's now leading this race, they had to do a whole lot of work yesterday to get that car within tech.
Here's Ty Majeski in and off of pit road. And Dean is in as well in his 32. And he rolls down pit lane, headed back out.
55-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road. That's got to seem like an eternity, Chris, when you're on a track this big going from that fast to 55.
And you're staring at a straightaway where the ARCA cars are looking at just shy of 200 miles an hour, I'm assuming. It's very hard to slow yourself down to 55 miles an hour.
Here's Smith in the 55. There's your race leader on the left. Robaugh has a gap of just inside of 4 seconds between him and Sargent. Maybe adjusting some tape. Heather?
Red 3 Motorsports cars, Ralph.
Let's go to Heather.
Zane Smith took 4 tires fuel and an air pressure on that stop, but he was complaining that he can't get to the bottom of the racetrack, so they made the adjustments to help him with that part of this race.
And here's Robaugh now making his way down pit lane. Cody in that Grant County Mulchback Chevrolet.
That gives the lead to the man in the backup car. Came in this race second in points. This is a huge deal right now for Dalton Sargent, that number 77 big-time Ford, to make sure he's got a car fast enough to go the distance. That short track car is looking pretty good right now. 1.69 second lead on Vinnie Miller.
While Robaugh takes service, the 55 of Zane Smith is hit with a too fast down pit road penalty, exceeding the 55-mile-an-hour pit road speed.
And that'll just about put him a lap down for sure right there. And that's going to be hard to come back from. Now you gotta try and figure out how to get a lucky dog at this point. very easy to do, though. We talked about trying to go 55 miles an hour down pit road. We don't have speedometers. We have a tachometer, and they're sitting there telling you, 3642 is your pit road speed. You try and get 3600, or you hope that that's as accurate as you know it to be, but it's very easy to get a little bit too much speed on pit road.
Here's Sargent, 6.5 seconds up Ontario.
Going so fast, the wrap's peeling off the car.
Look at that.
Didn't have time to repair it from Nashville.
Well, it was a short track wrap. It wasn't built for 200 mile an hour speeds.
But one great thing about this team, they won the championship last year with Chase Briscoe, the driver, and this race was their learning curve. They finished 10th in that race and said, man, we got to do better. They raced twice a year here at Pocono, and they came back and dominated, and Chase Briscoe from that point forward, see you later, lights now. That was a definite signature win for that team. So they have a great setup, a great notebook, and Sargent with those 2 top 5s running for a different team last year. They have the strength so the short track can hold up here for the duration.
Well, all of these pit stops started with this guy right here. Jones, who has now worked his way back up to 5th, threw his cards down on the table early. The pit window was supposed to be between 35 and 40, and he came in way early, around lap 16. Heather, what are they thinking? Is this?
That's exactly right, Ralph. Strategy is going to play big into this race here at Pocono. Now, Brandon Jones, as you said, came down pit road. He started all those pit stops, and everybody had to follow suit. But when I spoke to Chad Bryant, crew chief of the 77 for Dalton Sargent earlier today, he said you want to get these pit stops done as early as possible. That was going to be his strategy going into this. So this actually might play into their hands a little bit, since Chad prefers to get pit stops out of the way.
Well, most of the big names have cycled through, waiting to see how long Dalton Sargent, our current race leader, will go before he heads to pit road. We'll be right back for more from Pocono after this. Sunday on FS1, it's Moss Energy Cup Series racing from the track everyone loves to call the Tricky Triangle. Moss Energy Cup Series racing from Pocono. Coverage begins Sunday at 1:30 Eastern on FS1. How about that front row? Kyle Busch, second straight pole, 2 weeks in a row, and Martin Truex up on the front row for the 3rd time this season. Should be a great race. And you're going to roll off
29th.
29th. All right, Chris.
I got a little ways to go to catch up to those two.
You can do it. Jim, where are you rolling off from
I'm
Sunday?
going to roll off with some stats. When Chris Buescher raced here in the ARCA Racing Series, 4 races, all top 5 finishes. So, Chris, you know how to position yourself here. As you see this play out, we could go green to the finish. There's no need to throw a yellow flag unless something goes on. These young kids, they aren't used to live pit stops, much less super speedway green flag pit stops. There's a lot to learn here and keep things in track, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what, and as we see those zero car with a flat tire, as long as there's no debris, we won't have a caution. But if that case leaves the tire, we might see those caution flag pit stops. But yeah, it's very difficult to hit pit road at speed. We've had a couple speeding penalties already, and that can hurt you a lot if you don't get a caution to be able to recover from it. And as we get closer, we're getting close to our second round of green flag pit stops for Brandon Jones here.
Yeah, Thompson, you saw him having issues with his car. Wayne Peterson Racing Dodge towed it over from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and he's making his way to pit lane now. Here's Sargent, 51 laps to go, scheduled for 80. He's grown the lead now to almost 6 seconds over Austin Theriault.
And he, as of right now, has a 10-point lead in the overall driver standings in the points because of this strong run. Not saying it's going to end now, but he really was put in a position where we have our best race car now getting on the tow truck. What do we do? And that team went to work. There were 4 or 5 different teams helping get things changed over, taking off from the car that crashed to this one. So credit to the ARCA family for getting this car ready to go, with Chad Bryant literally sprinting back and forth to get parts and pieces to this race car.
Shows how prepared they came. When you can roll a backup car out of the hauler and it be that competitive, it's very impressive.
And they built in that skew. We see the cars look like they're crab walking a bit, but Chris, in reality, that's not the way to go around a short track. They did a lot of work in a short period of time.
So you want to get started talking about skew now, do you?
Yes, I do.
Let's take you back and show you why he's running the backup car earlier today, but late this afternoon in qualifying. Down into one. I think just drove it down in there deep, Chris.
Yeah, it looks like he got in and maybe over the corner just a little bit, but you know, it's hard to tell if he had a little bit of wheel in it and it was tight and just snapped loose, or if it just was a little bit on the free side there.
Sure didn't look like anything broke on him.
No, I would say that was just trying to get all he could get.
Yeah. And he was late in the session, too.
Yeah.
He was near the tail end of the deal, and I think he was just going for it.
And one comment he made during practice today, I caught on the scanner, that he said, when I'm turning in from turn one, I can't get to the bottom. Chad Bryant, his crew chief, said we fixed it by freeing the car up. So perhaps that was the mindset. Free the car up, it'll get tighter as the race wears on. And that was costly for them because they ultimately have to start the race on these qualifying and race same-day shows.
And look, issues for the 8 now. Jones, who led early on here. Heather, what's wrong with the 8? Looks like he's cut a flat left front again.
That's right, Ralph. Flat left front for the 8 of Brandon Jones. They came in early to pit to hopefully work out fuel strategy, but this is going to completely ruin that. The team is ready here on the wall to get a tire on that number 8 as soon as possible to get him back out on track.
Starting to get a little unusual here.
More than one car having left front issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this track's hotter than it's been all week. They were here Wednesday. This morning it was a little bit cooler. Then it got a little hotter during practice. And here again, we're cooling off a bit from what those temps were during our midday practice today.
Started this race, temperatures were in the mid-70s. So Jones is down on pit road. Sargent continuing the lead on the left side of your screen.
So talking about their pit strategy, you know, they're not going to be in their window now. You know, if they could have just held on a little bit longer, but you know, this really throws a wrench at what they were trying to accomplish here, and very unfortunate. You know, him talking about if they could just get to the end, they knew they had the speed in that number 8 car, and unfortunately, just luck got him here.
Well, he had a great strategy, had a fast race car. He's just having issues with his tires here today. Meanwhile, Dalton Sargent, who at one point in time lived over in Europe and dreamt about winning Formula One, is leading in ARCA at Pocono. On FS1, the stakes couldn't be higher. Has been a rivals clash again. Clint Dempsey and the U.S. men's national team take on Chicharito in Mexico in a crucial World Cup qualifier Sunday. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on FS1. Meanwhile, Dalton Sargent continues to lead here. Jim, we were talking about Dalton Sargent as we went to break there, about him at one point in his career while he was go-kart racing over in Europe, dreaming of maybe racing in Formula One. He's over here leading Pocono on an ARCA race, but his little brother Logan is still over there.
Yeah, he's actually very proud of what his little brother does, and he's very conscious of what he's doing, where he's going. Similar path to what Dalton did. And Dalton said after the 3rd year of being in Europe, he said, I don't think I'll ever be able to be the next American Formula One driver. It's just not working out for me. Things have to be in place years in advance, and his path was, you know what, I think I'm going to come back and try some stock car racing. And his brother said, wait a minute, I got to try that. So he's been over there for a couple years himself.
That was not a pass for the lead. Sargent continues to lead, but we're hearing that he's headed to pit road. Let's see if this is when the leader will come in. With 44 laps to go, he's been saving some fuel.
Yeah, with 36 laps since the start of the race, you know, he's getting to his fuel window anyway. He was trying to save, and they were probably hoping for a caution and catch a lot of these really fast cars a lap down, but I just don't think it worked out, and here he comes. He's going to hit pit road.
Sargent's got to woe it down. Remember, 55 mile an hour pit road speed. We've seen a car already have issues with that. The big time 77 coming to his pit stall. Let's go to Heather DeBow for the stop.
Well, right before they came into the pit stall, Chad Bryant, the last couple laps, they were talking about trying to stretch to lap 38 to be good. He told him to back it off. The 78 of Kyle Weatherman actually passed him because he let him go by because he already pit, but the 18 of Riley Herbst is on the same strategy of the 77, so that's why they went ahead and pitted when they did.
Trying to make it on one stop then.
Yeah.
Chad Bryant also said he probably had the worst gas mileage in their primary car, so this is still an experiment in waiting here with their backup car on the racetrack.
That might have been the caution he was looking for right there, and he's just going to miss it.
Just a lap too late right there, isn't it?
Dan Baney, the number 07. No juice under the hood of that Ford.
Yep, fusion out of power, and Dan's probably going to bring out our first caution, maybe out of fuel. Yep, there's a caution coming out with 42 to go. And that's exactly what Sargent was looking for, and he's just going to miss it. Well, while they slow the field down and get our stalled car off the racetrack, we'll take a quick break here at Pocono. And when we come back, Raleigh Herbst will be your leader. Field rolling around behind the pace car here. The General Tire Anywhere is Possible 200. Pocono Raceway. Round 7 for the ARCA Series, presented by Menards for 2017. First caution of the day, with 41 laps remaining here today. Pit road is now open, and it looks like Riley Herbst is diving for pit lane.
Probably desperately needing fuel at this moment. This should put them in their window to make it to the end, so this will become a one-stop race here. But
let's learn more about Riley Herbst's strategy from Heather.
Well, guys, before the caution came out, Riley was actually supposed to pit, but he was running too hard that he missed pit road, so that's why they had to actually wait. He would have been on the same strategy as the 77 of Dalton Sargent. So he's in now. He's going to do 4 tires and fuel to top it off to hopefully make it the rest of the race.
Fuel, and then they can possibly get in, try to get him to the finish. And we've said that the pit window is 35 to 40 laps, so he should be there.
I think they're going to be there. They're just going to have to save a little bit here under caution, and as they get going, you can lift the end of the straightaways here just a little bit.
Theriault pitted, and now problems for Creed.
MDM Motorsports trying to get their, looks like the left rear might have an issue, guys. The number 12 United Rentals Toyota. Creed had a chance to race the 6 races last year at the beginning of the season. This is his first trip to Pocono. He did a nice job at Nashville in his return this past season. He finished 6th there in a car he said was a handful throughout that entire short track race.
They just wanted to make him work for it. It's fun when it's a handful. You got to drive it a little bit harder.
Well, I want an off-road guy. If I'm going to have somebody drive a loose race car, give me Jimmy Johnson any day, right?
Well, they're going to do another lap or so before they're ready to throw the green flag, so we'll take care of some more business on our end. Be right back. Just past halfway here at Pocono, so let's take you back for our mid-race recap. Tires have been the story early on here with tire issues, such as the problems here for the 22.
Early problems for him and continuing problems for the 22 as far as tire problems. You see the 78 of Kyle Weatherman had a left front go down, just as Michael Self had a tire go down at the same time. So the only rear tire we've seen go down on the 0 car here, but it has been a common theme, and not really sure exactly why.
Yeah, even early race leader Brandon Jones having problems. As you take a look at our Protect Plus race summary, as we have just passed the halfway point, Riley Herbst leads. 15 cars currently on the lead lap. We've had 5 different leaders, 6 lead changes, and just this one caution. We're working 4 laps in 22 back on pit road again with some smoke coming out the back end of that machine there for Shane Lee. It's been a long day.
Speculating maybe suspension related, and now he comes into his pit stall, but the left rear now is flat. You can see it flopping there as he heads into his pit box at pit stall 13.
They've worn out a lot of tires, but not a lot of laps getting those problems on those tires. They've got something seriously wrong on that.
I talked to Brian Berry, who's actually at his daughter's graduation, but was here helping Brett Holmes get up to speed here at Pocono in his first race. He told me yesterday, he said, we might change left side tires. We're seeing enough wear on the left sides that if I had to do a 2-tire green flag stop, and it's only 2, I'll take lefts. And I said, because of the wear? He said, yeah, because of the way that the car is positioned on the racetrack, he saw that would be his advantage to change lefts instead of rights if they had to make a change.
A lot of folks here in the garage area talking about graduations.
Yeah.
Everybody's kids graduating from different age levels this weekend. Congrats to all the graduates from the different NASCAR and ARCA racing series that are up here this weekend in Pocono. We do have 4 different onboard cameras running here today, and Riley Herbst's giving us a great view with his UFC Gym onboard camera. He's up in the lead. Michael Self has been having a decent day. He's hanging around in the top 5 in that Sinclair Oil onboard camera. He did have a tire problem earlier on, but he's battled through that. Gus Dean running just outside the top 10 with the Greek cooling products on board. Zane Smith had some issues with his pit road speed, but he's got the General Tire onboard camera back inside the top 10. And Jones, who had tire issues.
Yeah, Jones had an issue, Self had an issue, Weatherman had an issue. They're all now top 6 on this restart.
77 had an issue in qualifying, and it's still top 5.
Big issue.
He had a big issue, and it's still running very well. So everybody's recovered very well from that.
Lights are off on the pace car.
Ty Majeski actually had to serve a pass-through penalty. Comes back out on the track in 10th. That first time here in Pocono, he came down pit road, overshot his pit, and leaving, he got caught speeding. That team didn't just let him roll through the pits on the pass-through penalty. They stopped him and topped him off on fuel in the 99.
There he is. We'll see if that pays off for them.
Smart to take advantage. If you already got to come down pit road, might as well top it off. You're not losing any track position. And we talk about, we touched on it, 55 miles an hour is very hard to do when you're coming from 200, but it feels really slow. And then when you try and come to a stop in a pit box for 55 when you're used to 35 at short tracks, then it seems really fast. And that's, gets you in trouble in a hurry.
Speed behind the pace car is scheduled to be about 75 miles an hour today, according to our ARCA race officials. It's about to go up as we come back to the green flag here. Racing once again at Pocono. Out 2-3 wide, headed over to the tunnel turn.
Good glimpse there of the 52 of Austin Terry, our point leader, just about into the 28 of Michael Self. Rubbing on that dinosaur in the Sinclair Lubricants Chevy. He has to get out of it.
Yeah, and Weatherman's riding that Group 2 in this 78. Meanwhile, here's Herbst up front leading with Jones trying to close in. Down that oh-so-long front straightaway.
Early in the race, Brandon Jones was showing Riley Herbst how to get through this racetrack. And as Jones led those first 15 laps, Herbst followed behind him. Now it's the other way. Herbst led the most laps at Elko last week, the Valvoline Lap Leader Award. This is a whole different ball game, though, as you can attest to, Chris.
Yeah, 2 very different racetracks. What a race up in Elko with sorry, I can't talk right now. But last week, I couldn't even talk at the end of that race either. It was a very exciting finish. But yeah, this racetrack is nowhere even close. So,
well, I know it's tough to talk about because it's so wild to watch. And here's how it went down as we go back to Elko, Minnesota, in the short track. And what a show it was there, that Bob Sargent promoted event.
It was a great race. I mean, this was what the difference was. The 52 was run up the track a little bit by the 15, the little payback, short track style. And this was coming to the checkered flag for 4th. Zane Smith getting dialed by the 18 of Riley Herbst, who told me today it was my fault. I went way too hard in that corner. A couple cars got caught up into it. Zane had a quick trip to the hospital. Good thing he just has a little back pain a week later from that incident.
Been a good season for Austin Terrio. Look at that, 2 wins, 6 top 10s, all in 6 starts, and he's having a good run here today inside the top 5 with that black and white 52 running in 4th.
And that's a brand new car. They don't say that often in Ken Schrader Racing shops, but this is a brand new piece that Donnie Richardson and the team put together. And Austin said we're doing a whole lot of changes here and there. They said they lost some of the balance. They made some changes before qualifying they thought would be helpful in the race.
Yeah, I talked to Donnie earlier today, and he said, boy, we're really struggling to figure out the balance of this car. But, man, they're running solidly in the top 5 and 4th, so I think they've gained some knowledge, and it's working.
And what he did Wednesday, they had that half a day of testing. He said, we went with a soft rear spring setup. And Chris, I want your comment on this because they went back to the hard rear springs and they actually changed the valance, the strip that goes alongside the door of the car to meet the ground. I said, why are you changing the valance? He said, because the car is now stiffer springs, we have to change the valance to make it accordingly so it's not going to squat so far. We have to seal off the track with a taller valance on the side.
All comes down to aero, right? So, you get those soft springs in the car. And the idea is to get the back of the car down and get that spoiler out of the air down the straightaway so you get more straightaway speed. It can upset the balance in the corner a lot of times, though. But when you travel that much, you trim your side skirts so that you're not bending the doors up. But, when you change those springs out, you get a lot more rear attitude in the car, get a lot better stability getting into the corner, and it can definitely help your balance. But then you have to go back and you do have to seal those side skirts to the racetrack so that you gain your side force back at the same time.
While Chris was talking, you saw Zane Smith in the 55 get around Dalton Sargent in the 77. That puts him up to 6. Here's Herbst, who continues to lead over Jones, just inside of a second back behind him there. And that red and white car running in second place. Michael Self in the 28 right after him. He's in 3rd.
Kyle Weatherman sits 4th in the 78 car. I think he has a chance. He thought he had a very fast race car. He and Michael Self out of the Mason Mitchell Motorsport Shop have very similar race setups initially. Mason overseeing the 28 today, and Kevin Reed, who works day-to-day in the shop with 6 or 7 other guys, putting these 2 cars on the racetrack. Both top 5. Good run by both.
There's Weatherman in the 78.
His sister Kirsten's graduating today. He said, man, I would love to see my sister. She supports me so much. Dad and Clayton are there, so he wants to say, hey, sis, nice job. Thanks for your support.
Love it. My son Lucas got out of 5th grade today. My daughter Olivia on Wednesday.
Wow.
Congrats to them. Brandon Jones. Oh, yeah, buddy. Oh, yeah. Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you? Back here in Pocono, General Tire, Anywhere Is Possible 200, live on FS1. Ralph Shaheen, Chris Buescher, Jim Trader, and Heather DeBow with you, and Riley Herbst, who's leading, and he finally broke the tie. Herbst, Jones, and Sargent had all led 15 laps, and now Herbst has led 17. Robaugh and Self have also led a couple laps each here today. 5 different lap leaders. 28 laps remaining here today. Jones is still chasing Herbst. He's just inside of 2 seconds back behind him. Jones with 3 career ARCA wins and a K&N East win. It came in Iowa, but Jim, the last time Jones won in ARCA was a year ago in Michigan. That's where the tour goes next.
And the race prior to that was his first ever ARCA race in 2016, I should say, with his team, MDM. He finished 3rd. He mentioned in our radio conversation at the outset, I remember that race. I made a mistake on pit road, trying to minimize those mistakes. And Jones heading back to Michigan, he had a strong car there, really strong, like nobody could touch him for a while. This is a different situation, though, with this young rookie, Riley Herbst, leading Jones now on the racetrack.
Boy, Michigan's not going to feel anything like Pocono, is it, Chris?
I don't think
speed-wise, but that's about it.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks here, I don't think you're ever going to go somewhere that feels like another racetrack. The ARCA schedule has such a diverse set of tracks. It's so much fun to run a full schedule here.
And to help Brandon Jones out, he's racing the Xfinity Series race here at Pocono Raceway. And that's only happened once before. There's only been one Xfinity race here at Pocono, so that great experience for Brandon, just like Kyle Larson did in 2014, racing the ARCA race before he went to the Cup race at Pocono for the first time. And Larson, of course, won that Xfinity race here last year. So it all pays off here in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards.
Heather, what else can you tell us about this NOS Energy Drink UFC Gym backed Toyota of Riley Herbst?
Well, you spoke about Riley being a rookie in this series, and they are for sure coaching him on the radio right now. They were telling him that he's better in turns 1 and 3 than the tunnel turn of Brandon Jones, but now they're saying that tunnel turn looks really nice. Keep up that rhythm. At 30 to go, they told him that. He's looking really strong out there, and he just keeps asking for for advice to be able to stay out front. His dad and family's here on the pit box. When he took the lead right after that first green, they were cheering for him. So they're definitely happy to see that 18 out front.
Chris, to get the tunnel turn right, what do you have to do? I know it's a moving object, but when you go through and you go, okay, I got that one right, what did you feel?
The minimal RPM loss. So when you get into there, you know, you're trying to just brush the brake, set the nose of the car, get it turned, and feed throttle back as quickly as you can. And when you're getting through there, if you're shallowing up your entry too much, you know, you go across some of the bumps in the middle, you're up the track on exit, you're out of the gas, it slows down a lot. It slows down your speed from exit 2 into 3.
There's a family watching in the pit box, cheering Riley on here today.
Crew Chief Shannon Rush also brings a lot to the program. He was a truck chief for James Busher. He's actually been involved with Turner Scott Motorsports for a long period of time. So in terms of making adjustments and getting young drivers comfortable, Turner Scott Motorsports had 5 different trucks and Xfinity cars at one time at the racetrack. So Shannon got a lot of experience with a lot of different drivers to bring to this Joe Gibbs Racing development deal.
Down the long front straightaway, you can fan out as wide as you'd like over there.
But I imagine the temptation into one, Chris, has to be pretty immense. You're like, okay, I'm losing a little bit of ground to the guy ahead of me. I think I'm going to try this entry, which may or may not work.
Yeah, most of the time, bearing it down into turn 1 is not going to get you the speed to escape. And, you know, that's where I've been working on it, is trying to get more speed out of turn 1. You know, we've been looking at data today and trying to figure out how to get better, and I didn't do a good enough job in qualifying, and so we have a ways to go, but we also have a long time to learn. But you know, that's something you got to pay attention to. You got to not overdrive 1 so that you make sure that you are in the throttle and have good momentum off the corner for that long backstretch.
Let's take a ride with Riley here. Full lap on board, and then Chris, you can tell us if you think he did it right. Here we go at Pocono. Just a lap for us.
Looks good from here. He's leading the race, so he's doing something right. But you know, it's interesting to me. You hear the rev limiter right about the end of the grandstands, which is a long way past that to turn 1, and something that, you know, used to be really important. I don't know with the new EFI and the Ilmore motors if it's as big a deal now, but we were always told if you hit the chip, make sure you back out of it a little bit so it's not just laying on the rev limiter. And they're on it aggressively all the way to the corner. Yeah. So, you know, obviously the durability of the Ilmore must be pretty good to be able to get through it like that. But, you know, he was in traffic in 2 and 3, so, you know, I don't really have anything to tell you about that. But he did a good job getting through it quickly and getting back in his rhythm so that he can try and pull that lead out.
Chris, we heard him burp a bit in turn 3, getting around the lap car of Ed Pompa. That does not appear to be that wide of a groove right now getting around this racetrack. He had to kind of tap dance a bit getting by that car.
Yeah, you know, we used to have that grip strip up there before the VHC was the thing, that grip strip, that newer asphalt before they repaved Pocono here. And now it is a little bit narrow through there. You can see the groove is much darker, and it's a little bit everywhere, but it seems they're able to run too wide through 1 and 2. And you see Riley even able to move up and kind of arc out on exit as well. Or I'm sorry, exit of 1. Got to get back to Pocono here, but you know, turns 3, he definitely had to get out of the throttle. There's marbles up there, and it's hard to hold on to the race car with so little banking over there on the outside.
Well, and he's trying to hold on to the lead, and that's getting tougher too, because Jones in that 8 is reeling him in. 1.3 seconds back with 21 laps remaining. The battle for the lead and then possibly the win here at the General Tire Anywhere is Possible 200 is closing up. Riley Herbst, who has led 27 laps here today, has got Jones now just 1.2 seconds behind him in second. Now, high up above the front straightaway is where you'll find the spotters, and up there is a man with 80 career victories in the ARCA series, Frank Kimmel. Now he is spotting for this car, Spencer Davis, and Spencer is currently running in 12th. But while he's watching this car, he's also having to keep an eye on another car, the 57, which is running in 14th because that's where his son Frankie is running, who is supposed to only be doing a quick start and park. But then they thought, you know what? Let's throw some tires on it, get some practice. Heck, he's having a great day. He's in the top 15.
Just his 9th ARCA race, but he even told me I had to borrow one of Dad's fire suits. I haven't had my own suit in like 5 years. He is so ingrained now with helping these teams with dartfish. He's actually had a job spotting for Zane Smith here in the ARCA Racing Series for Billy Vannerini. And as soon as Billy found out that Frankie might have a chance to drive, he said, man, you got to take advantage of that. So thankfully, Brian Doza's daughter is graduating today, giving Frankie the opportunity to race.
I saw Frank Kimmel, the legendary driver, in the hallway in front of our booth as he was headed upstairs to spot before the race, and he said, man, I am a nervous wreck, and it is a good thing I'm not spotting for him because I'll probably start yelling at him all day.
But Frank was right there with him all day yesterday, all right there with Frankie, making sure he knew everything he possibly could get out of him.
And speaking of possibly feeling the nerves creeping up a little bit, how about Riley Herbst? He's gained a little bit on Jones. He's picked up a couple of tenths. It's now 1.7 as a battle for the lead and possibly the win here at Pocono is starting to wind down because we only have 16 to go.
Yeah, closing pretty quickly. He has pulled some gap, and that gap has been going back and forth pretty aggressively, in a way that is pretty surprising. With that lap, gained almost half a second. That's over 2 seconds of a gap that went from 1.7 there. So, obviously Riley Herbst's got some speed in that 18 car, and he's putting the laps down right now. If he can hold on to this to the finish, it's going to be hard for anybody to do anything with him.
And I asked Riley about his experience getting comfortable here at Pocono. How quick did it come to you? He said, I actually went to the TRD, Toyota Racing Development Center. They have a racing simulator there that he actually drove laps here. I said, is it close? He said, yeah, it got me a lot closer to the feeling of it, but once I saw it, I needed to feel it. But that simulator, as you know, Ty Majeski spends a lot of time at the Roush Fenway, and Ford Racing Development has their own simulator helping these young drivers. Alex Bowman, for example, at Hendrick Motorsports, helping out Dale Jr., he's in their simulator almost every day. I mean, this is becoming video games applying to real life in a big way. The engineers live off of that data, don't they?
And as you mentioned, Riley didn't get to run Daytona because of his age at the time. Since then, 7th at Nashville, 12th at Salem, 8th at Talladega, 5th at Toledo, a 3rd at Elko. He is just working his way towards possibly a win here today at Pocono. We're going to come back and go green to the finish here live on FS1. Coming up next on FS1, it's full throttle racing under the lights as the trucks heat up the night sky at Texas Motor Speedway. Don't miss a minute of Camping World Truck Series action next on FS1. Always fun to see the trucks in Texas. Eddie Gossage's joint.
Yeah, Johnny Sauter said he loves that place, and he's really clicking now that he's won at Dover last race. I'm guessing that he might be one to look for, and he and Crafton do so well at Texas.
Going to be a lot of fun. Chris, you and I were talking during the break about these left side tires.
You see the wrinkles in the sidewalls going down the back straightaway here. You got to wonder, with the amount of tire issues that we've had, if it's not related to air pressure. I know that's something that we fight quite a bit, is if you get too low and it just builds up an excessive amount of heat in the tire and actually will damage the tire if you're trying to get too much out of it, or in this case, too little. This late into a run, I'm pretty surprised that you still see that amount of deflection in the tire there. So, interesting to see if that is what's going on, or if we have some different issues, people trying to run too much camber. You use a lot of brake getting into one here, and if it's just building too much heat and they're not using brake ducts, a lot of different things that can hurt something like that, but it sure doesn't seem to be affecting them.
These people all keeping the fingers crossed up here in Riley Herbst's pit box. They've got to get through 10 more laps and possibly a career first victory in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards for Riley Herbst.
One driver that I think of each time we come to Pocono is Jeremy Clements, now fully entrenched in the Xfinity Series. He was leading the ARCA race here at Pocono, coming off the final corner and tried to make it 44 laps on fuel and sputtered to finish just inside the top 5. Right now, we've got the top 4 cars all pitting on lap 40. Gus Dean pitted a lap later, lap 41. So if our pit window is about 40 and these guys are at it for a long time with their hammer down, there's only one driver in the top 10 that has pitted later than those, and that's Ty Majeski's still back in 9th after restarting in 10th in the 99. And he pitted on lap 43. So how it plays, how much fuel to use, perhaps Brandon may be backing off in the corners a bit, saying, you know what, if I need something, if I need a little more fuel, because Chris, you had mentioned the difference is now down to 1.1. It was actually just 2.5 seconds a gap to the leader a lap ago.
Yeah, you got to wonder if somebody's using a little bit of strategy here, because that's a huge amount of time to gain and lose in just 2 or 3 laps at a time.
Word off of pit road is the 18 thinks they're good on their fuel.
Stay close, Heather. I'm just saying. He'll get down to it. He's on the gas a long time as we rode along with him just a few laps ago.
Now here's where they made their last pit stop. Halfway point for Herbst, Jones, Self, Smith, Gustine, 1 to the good, past halfway. Scheduled for 80 laps here today.
And when we come back here in July on Fox Sports 1, it'll be a shorter race, only 50 laps in duration, 125 miles. So I'm thinking that doesn't play as much. You know, your fuel mileage when you come back here, but pays the same to go less laps, and that's going to be a full-out sprint race. It'll be fun to watch here on July 28th at Pocono. Our return, one of the few tracks we come back to twice a year in the ARCA Racing Series.
Looking forward to it. You and I will be here for that. Now he's got to get through traffic, too. Closing in on the backside of the 10 car of Ed Pompa out of New York.
Closing in, past him and gone.
Yeah, right. Just 8 laps remaining here for Riley Herbst. Well, you were in this very position, Chris, here, a year ago, looking at getting that career first victory. Of course, it was a different day weather-wise, but still, things were winding down. What kind of things are going through your mind that day that might be going through Riley's?
I don't know if I have a whole lot to contribute. I was watching some weather move in, and we were talking about vision, and you know, he's out there just looking at the track in front of him, trying to stay away from lap cars, make the passes quickly and efficiently, and try and be consistent. You know, if you'd have told me that, and you have told me that this is just a handful of races for him in a stock car on asphalt, even, you could have fooled me. I mean, he's doing an excellent job. He's been extremely smooth. We haven't seen any major bobbles out of him that have cost him any time or put him in any close calls. He's just been doing an excellent job, and you know, now all he needs to do is pull it off 6 more times around this tricky triangle here.
And in this traffic, Jones is closed within a second. We haven't seen him that tight in a long time. He's turning up the wick right now.
And this type of experience and ability that Riley is showing here today is one of the reasons why he's been named to NASCAR's next program as well.
Very impressive.
3 of their drivers are in the field today. Zane Smith, the birthday boy, and Ty Majeski all getting that nod. A lot of development goes into that, a lot of marketing, but awareness on who to watch. And we've got 3 of them running really well here today. All 3 in the top 10 in this 200-miler.
Car seems to be hugging the bottom just the way he wants it, though, even this late in the run.
He looks happy, doesn't he? Car looks happy. I'm sure he's in there having a good time. I mean, it's just everything's going well for him at this moment. They're just trying to do whatever they can. You know, with Brandon Jones, you know, 1.4 seconds back now after just being within a second a lap ago, you got to wonder, do you save fuel or can you even take that risk right now? You know, it's so hard to figure out if you need to be giving 110% or if you really want to have a little bit of extra cushion as you get towards the end.
Michael Self, let's not count him out yet in that Sinclair-backed machine. He's had some issues today, Heather, but he's still running in 3rd.
That's right, Ralph. And you guys just mentioned about the 18 on whether he's going to save fuel to risk it or not. Well, Michael Self just asked if he has any pressure pressure from behind, and they told him no. He said, well, I'm going to save just in case the front two in front of me run out. So in risk of jinxing Riley Herbst, talking about fuel like Jim Trado, I hope that doesn't happen to him, but Michael Self is hoping that they do run out to get the win.
Also looks like there might be some sunlight issues as they're going through the tunnel turn there too late in the afternoon here.
Well, it was a little bit hard to see, and you see all the rubber and debris on the windshield. That just makes it a little bit worse as the sun hits that and reflects off. But at this point in the race, they've run so many laps. They have different points on the racetrack that they're looking at. So you're probably looking at some of these 3, 2, 1 cones on the fence, trying to figure out where to lift and aim for a yellow line, and that's an interesting line being all the way down there on the apron. I haven't seen that here ever, but it's working for them.
Actually, just early into the evening here, just past 7 o'clock on the East Coast.
Maybe you're learning something thanks to the racing line of Riley Herbst.
That might be it right there. I could have qualified better if I'd have watched this beforehand. So we'll give that a shot.
Hey, at 15, you were moving yourself into a position to get a chance like Riley has at age 18 now. Did you ever do the video games, iRacing, the simulators, or were you more about, I need seat time in my Legends car as much as I can, give me a late model, and here in the ARCA Racing Series, you were doing it at 18 already?
A little mix. It was a lot more in-a-car testing. Legends cars, we ran ASA truck races out on the West Coast. We tried a handful of races at late model. A lot of ARCA races, a lot of ARCA tests, and that was really the big thing. iRacing was fairly new at the time, and so we did get into that and start using it as a good tool. And then as we've gotten a little bit farther along, all of the major manufacturers have their own simulation programs that you're able to go and like you discussed earlier, go run those and try and get an idea before you get to a track. But nothing can truly replace the feel of being in a race car and doing the real thing.
Still hitting that chip, isn't he? Riley Herbst's quickest lap of the day was a 53.27 on lap 48. Last lap of 55.09. He's backed off a little bit, but he's only got a lap and a half left to go.
Coming to the close here and looking very good in the process.
Jones 1.23 seconds back. Self 9.8. Then it's Smith and Dean in the top 5. Dalton Sargent, who led 15 laps early on today, runs in 6th.
Here's the distance, guys, that 1.2, 1.5 second difference. Now we've got a car in between them, Cody Robaugh, who's 1 lap down, but at one point passed the leader. He's got a very fast car sitting between our 2 leaders as we wind things down here. We'll see how that may play a factor, because Brandon Jones needs all the clean air he can get. He just got it now, passing Robaugh into turn 3.
Family hoping for one more good lap here at Pocono. And how will they do on fuel? They think they've got enough for the final lap. We're about to find out as Riley Herbst looks for career win number 1 in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. Jones 1.7 seconds back. Riley Herbst didn't get to run Daytona. 7th at Nashville, 12th at Salem, 8th at Talladega, 5th at Toledo, 3rd at Elko, Minnesota, and maybe going to victory lane here today in Pocono. Riley Herbst has mastered the tricky triangle. The checkers have waved, and Herbst is the winner.
Shannon Rush, the crew chief there. We got the embrace by Laura and Mom and Troy, the dad. Troy is ecstatic because he knows how much work this young man has put into it, chasing across the country, East Coast, West Coast, saying, I need to commit myself to something I can learn a bunch of these NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series tracks, and this kid is doing it right. Joe Gibbs Racing, congratulations to them. First time in the ARCA Series, invested as a development team since 2005. This is their first chance back, and it's looking really, really good for Riley Herbst and that whole team all season.
Looked like a veteran there at the end.
Yeah, he did.
Did an excellent job.
Yeah, truly did.
He led 130 laps of the short track last week, 45 laps this week. There's no stopping this. We're up to Michigan again. He won't even know what speed feels like. It is going to 1 there at the big wide oval in Brooklyn, Michigan, and hammer down again.
Well, let's see what kind of a victory lap victory celebration he can pull off here.
It takes a while here to get back around the start
Sure
finish line, doesn't it?
You didn't get a chance to do a burnout, Chris. They pulled your car in the garage because it's raining out when you went here.
And look at this. We made some history here today. The fastest race in Pocono history, 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 54 seconds.
That's saying a lot because Kyle Larson, when he won here in 2014, he was lights out, only 2 cautions in that race. So Herbst had a very, very fast pace here today.
There was a little shaka bra there. Just a little hang loose away. Making his way to victory lane here at Pocono to join some very famous names that have pulled into there.
Here he comes. There.
Let's see if he's had practice doing this before. So this way, you get a little bit nervous trying to do a burnout or whatever he's going to do. You know, he gets a checkered flag here from the ARCA officials. Let's see if he burns him down. They had to tell me what they said. Hey, you need to put all the front brake you can to it, and make sure you don't stall it because you'll embarrass yourself if you do that. But yeah, it looks like he's going to try and keep it nice and clean. And
so the crew chief said no burnout. Now let's see if he pays attention to him. What was it like when you got that first win?
It's just a big thing. You know, it's a big deal. And your first one, anything. Mine came in Toledo in the ARCA Racing Series, and I remember that day. It was just awesome to get done. It just won't sink in. You can't really get an idea until you're leaving the racetrack that day. You go, man, that really just happened. You know, this is the beginning of it. This is what we got to do. We know we can do it now. So how do we do it every weekend?
Well, the Herbst Racing family has won a lot of races in their day. This will be one of the most special. Young Riley has his first in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. We'll talk to him right after this. Coming up, as soon as we put a period on the racing here at Pocono, we'll take you to Texas for the Truck Series. Let's touch base with Vince Welch.
The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series racing tonight from Texas Motor Speedway. Noah Gregson, the 18-year-old from Las Vegas, Nevada, will start from the pole, earning his first career pole with a qualifying speed of better than 185 miles per hour. Starting alongside Gregson will be the 3-time Texas winner and the defending series champion Johnny Sauter. The setup show at 7:30, the race at 8.
Well, before we can go to Texas, we got to meet our winner here at Pocono. Here he is, Heather.
Riley Herbst, your winner of the General Tire Anywhere is Possible 200, getting a heck of a shower from his team here for his first career win in the ARCA Series. Riley, your family was watching on the pit box, your dad looking super nervous. How nervous were you in the car coming to that checkered flag?
Talk about a long-term coming for this team. Wow. We built this brand new team this year. I can't thank everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing enough. My dad, my grandfather, my grandma, my mom, and back at home. This is great. The General Tires on these things were hooked up all day. I was just praying for that white flag on like lap 4. I was like, when's this thing coming out? And it finally came out, and we got it done.
Now, one of the first people to congratulate you here in Victory Lane was Brendan Gaughan from Las Vegas. But this is your first race at a super speedway. What are your takeaways from today?
You just got to keep moving on this big picture. We got to go to Michigan now, but Brendan's been a big help for us, and we're going to go to Michigan, and we're going to try to go get this thing parked in Victory Lane again.
Now, there wasn't a lot of talk on the radio there till the end. Were you worried about fuel at all?
Nope, not at all. The crew chief made a great call, and we were good on fuel, and we parked it right here in Victory Lane in Pocono.
All right, well, congratulations on your first win ever here at Pocono. Great run out there.
Thank you.
That's Riley Herbst, your winner here at Pocono Raceway.
All right, Heather, thank you. Baja, San Felipe, the Mint. Those are races where you're used to hearing the Herbst family in Victory Lane. Now they get to take that really cool trophy from Pocono.
And when this came together, they said to Joe Gibbs Racing, we want to be part of the plan. We like being involved with you and Toyota, but We want to make this an effort that comes out of your shop. So Todd Barrier, overseeing the competition at Joe Gibbs, was in that garage. A lot of Joe Gibbs racing guys were coming and going. Randy Fuller, Carl Edwards' longtime PR guy, overseeing what they're doing here at a companion event weekend. To get things right, you got to surround yourself with great people, and they've done that thus far.
You watched this young man all day today, Chris, and you said he looked like a seasoned veteran at the end. What types of things did you see out of him that show you that he has maybe what it takes to continue moving up the ladder?
Well, I think the first thing is how smooth he was at the end under pressure. You know, trying to hold on to that lead for the entire end of that race. Led a lot of led the most laps for the day, and didn't have any mistakes. You know, got around lap traffic very efficiently. You know, didn't put himself in a bad position to where he had to take a risk. He did great on pit road for coming to a speedway and trying to hit his box and be nice and clean. You know, it's just overall it was really nice execution for the entire event.
Well, you're going to have a much longer distance to run on Sunday. Of course, that race here will be live on FS1 Sunday afternoon. Did you learn anything today or see anything today that maybe could play out come Sunday?
I think we need to look at a couple of things. You know, the tires are a little bit different between the two series, but we looked down towards turn 3, and the groove was very narrow. There wasn't a whole lot of passing there. Turn 2 is always narrow, and you always got to pay attention to that and try and keep that momentum up. We saw Riley trying to use that apron a little bit, try and maybe get the car to turn across the tunnel a little bit better. And then, you know, down in turn 1, that's where it's usually really wild. When you go down in there for restarts and it's 4 or 5 wide, that's nerve-wracking. So we got to try and come out of there and make it nice and clean. And much like today's race was, and come out with a car that looks just as good as when it started.
Brandon Jones led 15 laps here today. He comes home in second place. Let's go downstairs. He's with Heather.
That's right, Ralph. He was a dominant car in practice and testing, led some laps. You were on that early pit strategy, and then you unfortunately had a tire go down. How'd you overcome that adversity and get to this second place finishing spot?
Yeah, I definitely I think it shows how well our Anderson's maple syrup car was today. I feel like we should be in the victory lane position, but it's kind of my luck here with that flat tire lately. So I think we had a really, really good car. The guys put together a great piece. Marty Lindley really put together a good car. So we got Michigan to come, so hopefully we're going to get one there. One spot better than we were here last year. So thanks to everybody at ARCA, General Tire. They brought us a good tire, unfortunately, the flat tire, but they still performed all week long. So good job to everybody.
Now you're racing in the Xfinity Series tomorrow. I know these are completely different cars, but is there anything that you learn racing these ARCA races that you can take to those?
Yeah, I think so. You know, our tires are a little bit different, but I still think the balance is going to be the same. You know, I kind of think it goes tighter as you run right there, so we can definitely account for that in our Xfinity car. Maybe make some changes that'll help that on a long run over there.
All right. Well, we've got a few more things to do here at Pocono before we send you off to Texas. We'll wrap up the big day for Riley Herbst. Back here at Pocono, wrapping up the day. Late start here, finishing in the early evening as we go through our unofficial results. And Jim, there's a lot of young guys up there.
Looking at the ages of our top 10 finishers, only 2 are older than the age of 22. And the top 5 average age, I did a quick math, 21 years of age. Herbst, 18. Brandon Joe's 20. Michael Self, the old man, at 26. Zane Smith turned 18 today. Gustine, 23 years of age. We're talking about youth getting experience here at these big tracks. It paid off for those young guys today.
Just like our booth.
Thanks, Chris Bush.
As long as we take Busher and factor him into the average, right?
Oh, man.
Let's go down and hear from Michael Self.
Well, guys, the old man, as you just mentioned, actually ended up finishing third. After an engine change today, you had a little adversity to overcome. How was the car there towards the end? Did you have anything left to catch up to the guys in front of you?
No, I tried on that last restart, and we just got a little bit too snug there, kind of from the center off, especially in their air. The car was moving around a little too much. That first run, we were absolutely flying. I think we came from like 30th to 5th or 4th. I know we were leading at one point, and that was pretty awesome. So the Sinclair wheel number 28 was battled a lot of adversity today, but came back hard, and I'm really proud of this Mason Mitchell Motorsports team for giving me such an awesome car. For General Tire, they did a great job. We ran 40 laps there. as hard as we possibly could, and the thing stayed underneath us. The handling was just a little bit in the car. So thanks to everyone that put this on. Huge thanks to Sinclair for letting me be here. I love coming and running this ARCA racing series. It's a blast every time I come out here. Just everything they do running on these big tracks is a lot of fun, and it's time to go race again tomorrow.
Now, you've never raced here at Pocono, but you were a driver, coach, spotter for Justin Haley. Was there anything from that experience being up in the top of a spotter stand that you brought to today?
Yeah, there's a lot, but the problem was I wasn't doing it. And I remember what I was telling him last year, and I kept thinking, I need to back my corner up, and I just wasn't doing it all weekend. And finally in the race, I got it down, and that made a big difference. That's what gave us so much speed, and I had Derek Nealand up there spotting for me, and obviously he does pretty well in the Cup stuff this year, and he was giving me a ton of advice and helped me a massive amount. But coming here with a little bit of a notebook from Coach and Justin was a good thing.
All right, that's Michael Self. He's going to actually head to the Philly airport so he can get on a plane and go to the K&N West race, guys, tomorrow in Colorado.
I like it. Look at that trophy. That's going to look great.
He's getting his hat turned up. This kid is so excited. His hat got knocked off by the trophy raising overhead. There's Shannon Rush, the crew chief. Good job, guys.
All those desert off-road trophies in the case back home, and he's going to wedge that one right into the front. Michigan International Speedway, that's the next stop for the tour. FS1 will be there Friday, June 16th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be a great one. See if Riley can go back-to-back. Well, it's been a good afternoon here. Pocono, the Tricky Triangle. Hope you enjoyed it. For Heather DeBoe, Jim Trado, Chris Busher, best of luck to you come Sunday afternoon. I'm Ralph Shaheen. So long for now from here at Pocono, Pennsylvania. Coming up next, we're going to head to Charlotte. Camping World Truck Series getting ready to go down in Texas. But we got to kick things off with the setup show from the studio. And our buddy John Roberts. For now, so long from Pocono.